change it up. So, last week, we discussed 5 things holding people back from having what they want. And I felt like the first one, which is more important, actually, the most important, so I would say it was 6, is not knowing what you want, which holds people back from having what they want. But then another one that I discovered, which I think is a very interesting one, and it also ties into a lot of this new term that I've been seeing, productivity paralysis. I don't know if you've heard of that.
Analysis paralysis.
There's all these things. I was like, rabbit hole myself again for a few hours, but I still got my to-do done for the week, so that's fine. But I felt that one we didn't touch on, which I feel is a really important one, is fear of failure and fear of success. And I found this stat that was done in 2023, so 1.5 years ago, by Gem Data. And it says that 59.5% of South Africans say fear of failure would stop them from starting a business, placing SA among the countries with the highest entrepreneurial hesitation globally.
Wow.
So on this planet, we are ranked very highly for not starting stuff. And I feel when I saw that, I was like, man, could that also play a factor in sort of, and this is a whole other thing, but could it play a factor in us not being able to create jobs and drive our economy? And there's a big ripple effect or something like that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm definitely not a economist or whatever. So
neither of us are.
But just, in terms of that, I just look at that fear of failure, and I genuinely believe that fear of failure comes from school. And I mean, schools go back today and tomorrow, I think, pretty much for the 3rd and 4th term, depending on, whether it's government or private schools. But it's in that exam season, matric season, and it's like, this is the next 3 months are your life. Like, if you do not pass the next 3 months, you are doomed. Your life is over. And then the results come out, and we have that sort of that stat of suicide rates going up, and it's like, for me, I think children are being groomed to believe that they have to study so that they can get a good grade, because if they don't fail, their life will be over. And that's the failure, is your life will be over if you don't pass your matric exams. And I genuinely don't believe that is the truth. Because you have, after school, you've got, if you live to 100, you've got another 75 plus years to do the things that you love to do. And I mean, some people only find out what they love to do in their 40s and their 50s. So it's, they actually find their true purpose in life after they've got through the whole, get over the failure things. And they've lived their life and they've been flipping unhappy, and then they go back to, well, actually what I really want to do is, and then they start doing what they want to do.
And it's usually like the weirdest things, right? Truly what I really wanted to do was being a model train designer. It's the weirdest things, but it's like people find their passions. And it's actually, I can't remember the exact stat, but I think I saw something like 35% of people that were surveyed actually only found their passion and purpose after they turned 40.
Well, I've only started processing after I was 40.
See?
I'm one of those stats.
My stats are kind of right. That's fascinating, that you only, I mean, was it something that you were actively pursuing? Or like, did it happen to you? Because I have an interesting one here. Well, sorry, let me go with this. But it says 65% believe success is due to luck, not their effort.
So it is fascinating, because I won't say I was actively looking to help people, but if I look back on my journey, everything I did was about helping people.
True.
And I unknowingly did courses through different platforms to further myself along the way, and then kind of processing came along, and it just made sense because it was the next step. But once I was being processed, I actually realized that processing was what I wanted to do. And when I look back on my journey, I was like, oh, this is actually what I was looking for, but I didn't know that it was what I was looking for. So for me, that was part of the journey.
It's interesting. Yeah. It's actually, because I mean, I feel like I don't remember. I mean, I did fail at school. And it's weird because I also feel like because you spoke about school, right? And I feel like sometimes it's not even like failing, like you've got whatever the pass you've got below that. I feel like it's even with kids who are not getting what they are expected to get. It's they then considered failures and their whole lives are just twisted upside down, and how that actually sticks with you is pretty crazy, because you don't actually look at that like, oh, this is going to affect me for the rest of my life type of thing, in terms of I may fail or I fail. It's just one of those, you kind of put it to the side, right?
Yeah. And I mean, if you look at university students, I mean, a lot of people go into things because it was an easier route. And I say easier, like engineers, like, oh, your friend's standing in the shorter queue. So he says, oh, that line's too long. Come this side. And without even realizing it, your whole life is based on the decision of, well, that line's shorter. And so instead of becoming a, I don't know, one type of engineer, you suddenly become a different type of engineer. And, it's like the trajectory of your life is dependent on someone.
Yeah.
So if I look at maths, I had the most horrific maths teacher. I hated her.
Same.
And yet before I started in her classes, I loved maths. I got 99% all the time. And then I went into her class and it was so boring, so uninteresting. And then I started failing maths. And of course, that was closer to matric. And when it came to subject choices, she was the one who said, no, you shouldn't do, genuine maths. You should.
You should fail.
Because you're not very good at it, so you're going to fail.
Change path.
Just because somebody and we had a personality clash, my life or subject choices changed, which affected the rest of.
Yeah, it's it's almost like this. It's one insignificant moment, but it's actually quite significant when you look at it again.
Correct.
It's fascinating. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us. This is the Uncovering Greatness podcast. If this is your first time, thank you for watching. Something I was looking at, 85% of our viewers are not subscribers.
Oh, wow.
Guys,
Subscribe!
Please, just click the subscribe button. If you found value in it, subscribe.
It doesn't mean you're going to get inundated with thousands of...
No, we're not going to call you.
of messages and calls and
we're not going to be all over your space. All it's going to do is it's going to let you know when we release some new content. That's all it is. It's going to keep you updated. It's going to keep you in our world. So you don't have to always go on YouTube and type in the page. It's there. It's on your feed. So please subscribe. Subscribe. It will help us. It will help you. And yes, I am your host, Sully, and I'm the Uncovering Greatness podcast, which we release 2 episodes every single week. The purpose is to help you uncover the greatness inside you. We tackle topics that are current and relevant, and Barry and Nicole flip that into some amazing teachings that can help you on a daily basis. And today I am joined by Nicole Mitchell. Nicole is the lead processor at Uncovering Greatness. And what she does is help you find out what you want, and she helps you get it. Last week we were speaking about 5 things holding you back. Once people knowing what they want is one of the key things. And that's probably the hardest part of your job.
Surprisingly enough, yes, it is, because people don't, that fear of failure that we're talking about.
Yes.
I don't want to go after what I want because I'm terrified I'm going to fail. So it's a perfect example of people, they may know what they want, but then they'll deny what they want because the fear of failure is greater than their want or the need to succeed. And I think that's where, we talk about over the age of 40, people find their purpose because they're not afraid to fail, because
Yeah.
they actually failed at what they were doing.
I've been doing this.
It sucks.
I've been failing.
You know what? I'd rather go after something I enjoy, so at least I'm happy. So if I do fail at this, well, I'll be failing happily rather than, failing miserably. So,
and I feel like you also get to that age where it's like, at least if I tried this thing and I failed, I didn't die, right? At least I didn't die, or I didn't put my house on the line. I didn't put myself in. Yet I'm not saying there aren't people who don't do that. There are. That's the rare cases, and you can do that if you want. But what we're speaking about is more, sometimes you just gotta shake off that fear. You gotta take that risk if you want what you want. There's always gonna be a risk. If for going for what you want, right? It's never like a straight path.
Correct. The path is never straight. And I mean, if you look at, I think it doesn't matter what you want, if there's going to be challenges, and those challenges are what is going to make you want to grow, or force you to grow. Not necessarily want to, but force you to grow, which then prepares you for the next challenge. So it's understanding that, you're only going to get better as you go through hardships.
Yeah.
And I mean, another stat, I don't know what it is currently, but it used to be that the average millionaire loses 7 businesses.
Damn.
I could be wrong, but it's something close to that, and they will lose or destroy 7 businesses along the way. And that's where you hear people say, oh, but Donald Trump went bankrupt and Robert Kiyosaki went bankrupt and those kind of things. And people are not wrong. At some point, yes.
They failed.
Yeah. But they failed forward. So they failed and they learned from their failures. And this is where society teaches us that failure is bad. Yeah. Failure is not bad if you learn from it. And if we go back to the school system, schools were originally designed, or exams and tests were designed to see how much you knew so that you knew what to go and learn. But it's not like that anymore.
No. You don't need to, not necessarily learn how to be a carpenter, for example.
But also, if you, like in terms of maths, if you do the reason why a maths paper is segmented into different sections, so that you can learn what you don't know.
Okay.
So if you fail, for example, I don't know, BODMAS, brackets, addition, subtraction, that sort of stuff, you know that is the area you need to go and work on.
Yes.
So in years when the school system was designed and exams were designed, it was like, okay, so now the teacher takes that person aside and goes and teaches them what they don't know.
Yeah.
But because teachers today do not have the ability or the time or the system to be able to do that, well, you're naughty, you're wrong, you failed, get out of my class.
Yeah, go to D class or whatever it is.
And that's where our school system has gone so wrong, because it's taught kids that if you don't learn it when I teach it to you, I'm teaching it to you once, and if you don't learn it, then you failed.
Yeah.
Like you have to go somewhere else.
You're not going to learn this if you get it wrong once, you're not going to get
it. And that is so not the truth.
Yeah.
And, I just look at, things that happen in life. If you're going to buy a car or buy a house, or where does anybody teach you how to do that? Where? And those are the things.
Nowhere. I never learned that in school.
And it's fascinating you put a group of young people together and say, right, and I say like 25-year-olds.
Yeah.
Put together 20 youngsters from the age of 20 to 25 and ask them, how do you buy a house?
Yeah. I'm very sure most of them will not know.
So you say the house is going to cost you R1 million. How are you going to buy it? Most of them don't have a clue.
Yeah. They'll assume you go to the bank and you get the money.
Well, some of them think you don't even know that you can go to the bank to get a bond.
No, true.
Some of them think you have to come up with
you have to have the money in your account.
Or if you decide you're going to share it with 2 of you, you have to have 500,000 Rand each.
Yeah.
That, those are things that we are. And then we have this thing about you failed because you don't have a house.
Mm.
Or you failed because you don't have a car.
Yeah.
But where in society are we teaching people basic life skills like how to do those things?
Mm.
And people are feeling like failures because they don't know stuff
Yeah.
that they should know, because surely you should know how to buy a car. I mean, come on.
Information's all over the place. There's so much information readily available.
But if we're absolutely honest, who teaches you about interest rates? Who teaches you about loans and finance and things like that? We don't get taught those things.
Yeah.
And so I say kids, teenagers are coming out of school, going into university, and then they have no life experience. They're coming out and feeling like a failure.
Mm.
And I mean, I just look at, you want to get some credit, but how do you open an account?
Yeah. No credits.
You have no credits. You have no credit score. So
yeah, you just left school.
What do you mean I can't have an account?
Yeah.
And this is where it's so challenging for people today, because their life force is getting tied up and trapped in these experiences of I'm a failure.
Yeah.
And it's also, who do you go to ask? Because I don't want anyone to know that I'm a failure.
Also, one of the big ones on this list is not wanting other people to know or see that you failed.
So I don't want anyone to know that I'm a failure. So you know what? I'll go and ask someone I don't know.
Mm.
Because if I ask someone I don't know, then no one will know I'm a failure.
Yeah. Somebody not connected to anybody that I know, I'll go ask that person.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then we don't check their credentials. We don't check anything about them. And then people get scammed.
Yeah.
And then they feel even more of a failure, because now I got scammed. How could I have been so stupid to get scammed? But it all came back to that fear of,
I don't want others to know.
I don't want anyone to know I don't know.
Yeah. That's crazy. I was just thinking about there's these guys that do these comedy clips. I was just thinking about, and one of the ones that they did was, they said, so they make fun of these podcasters, and they were saying, if you're 22 and you don't have 3 Ferraris, what are you doing with your life? And I was like, you know what the thing is? That is happening a lot to these poor young kids in society right now. You are being made to, and also, it's a tricky one, because you're not forced to watch the content. I'm not saying that you are. Nobody's sitting there holding a gun to your head to watch the content. But there's so much of this content that is now readily available and all over feeds, and people know how to work the algorithm so that it lands on your page if you're that age, where they are saying things like this to these kids. If you don't have 100,000 in your bank account by the age of 20, you're wasting your time. Like, what are you doing? And I was like, wait, so now I must compare and direct my life based off yours.
Yeah, and this is where social media is so challenging, because you get successes, you can call it one-hit wonders, or these, 2 or 3 people that are successful. And if you actually go and check their background, it's nothing even remotely even close to yours.
No way.
I mean, Paris Hilton used to do all those road shows where she used to go to different towns and things. And,
yes.
I mean, that for me was hysterical, because she grew up in a household where
Paris Hilton.
money wasn't an option.
Basically grew up in the Hilton Hotel.
Money, like, she didn't have to think about money.
Yeah.
And so she was taught a lot of financial principles unknowingly.
Interesting.
Whereas you take somebody that grew up, in Soweto, that doesn't have any money, and they were taught survival skills. They were not taught financial literacy.
Yeah, those are 2 very different things.
And then that poor person who grew up in Soweto, they have all these survival skills, and then they come and they watch a podcast of someone like a Paris Hilton, or somebody who had a wealthy background, financially wealthy, and then they're comparing themselves to that, and it's like, oh, I must be a failure because I don't have that.
Yeah.
And it's so sad, because the reality is everybody has their own journey. Everyone has their own experiences. And, not everybody is driven by money, and not everybody is driven by things. And this is where society teaches you should be driven by money. And then there again, if you're not driven by money, you must be a failure.
Yeah.
Or if you're not driven by who knows what, there's something wrong with you. And yet, when we look at things like the bank codes that we work with, it's everybody's different.
Yeah.
Everybody has a different code. They have different values. And so I think the world has created this, you should be like X. And that's for me and then people feel like a failure because, oh no, it's like you decide you're going to start your own business and people are, you must be mad.
Yeah.
Like, in this day and age, in this economy, and everyone's knocking you and you're going, oh, did I do the right thing? Or you've got somebody that's like, oh, I tried that and didn't work.
So don't you dare try it.
You shouldn't even try it.
Leave it alone.
Don't touch it.
I know what I'm doing, and I couldn't get it right. What are the chances that you get it right?
Correct. And this is where this whole thing of failure is. People are looking at other people for validation, because that's what the school system teaches us. You got to get validation from your marks.
Oh man. Now we've just rippled it into this thing started a long time ago. The validation thing.
Correct.
And comparing yourself to others, and
that's where it starts, because at school you get compared to everyone in your class. And your parents validate you, and not everybody, but a lot of parents validate their children based on the percentage that they get at school.
That is very true.
And so we are now looking for this recognition from our marks or our report card, which then becomes our bank account, because it's numbers. We get based on numbers. So if you've got money in the bank, you've done it. You're good.
Success.
And yet success to you is very different to success for me.
Yeah.
And so we are being conditioned to perceive things as failure, instead of being conditioned to, if you fail, you're learning.
I mean, just on the social media thing, I mean, it says 87% of people surveyed say social media distorts their idea of success.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, I just know, I look at people that are on social media, and I look at some of the influencers and things like that. And when you actually know them,
that's the killer for me.
When you actually know them and you see what they're posting on social media, it's like,
oh no, you're a straight up actress. That's what this is. You are a performer. And you know what the thing is for me? I'm of the, especially when it comes to like influencers and stuff, I'm all for the performance.
Absolutely, because there's a purpose behind it.
But rather own the performance, right?
Yes.
Say that this is what I'm showing you is not my complete reality. Because what you then do is give people an opportunity to decide if they want to or not, right? So I'm now looking at Nicole, the influencer. Damn, Nicole's doing just jetting and doing this and doing that. But if Nicole's also telling me the struggle of her jetting around, I can now decide, well, do I want to shatter the illusion of her as a person, or do I want to keep you as an influencer? Yes, you're a jet setter. That's what I love. That's all I'm in for. I don't care about your struggle. And I feel like that's the way it should be, but it's not going to be that way because people don't want the truth.
So I saw a post on Wimbledon the other day, last week, and this girl posts the actual reality of Wimbledon.
Yeah.
And she like sitting in the queue at 5 o'clock in the morning to get tickets. And she does this whole timeline on, the rain, the this, the that, standing in the queues for this, standing in the queues for that, standing in the queues
Yeah.
again, standing in the queues again, and then 5 minutes of tennis. And I had such a chuckle because, and I think she, it was just the opposite extreme of what you were seeing on TV. Everyone's going, oh, I got my Wimbledon tickets. This is so awesome.
Just see the end product.
You just see the end product, and you don't see all the work that goes into it, or the hours that, people camping the night, And I mean, Wimbledon has rules, and I think you can only set up camp at 5 a.m. or something.
I didn't even know you can set up camp for Wimbledon. I thought it's one of those where you buy your tickets online. If you don't have a ticket, you're done.
No, because Wimbledon is one of the few. I think it's the only major where you can buy your tickets on the day.
Oh.
So they release a certain number of tickets online, and then they release tickets on the day because that you don't know, because of the wonderful British weather. They don't know how long it's going to take. They don't know, and so. They don't know, you can buy your tickets for the day, and if it all gets rained out, well, what's the point?
How about you?
So they have, you can go on the day and you can buy tickets, but they only release a certain number of tickets on the day. And then based on how many people leave, because people will only want to go and watch a certain match.
Yes.
And then they
just
leave.
The different courts.
Yes. Yeah. And so they leave. So if you want to go in, you can. Go in based on people leaving. So it's based on the amount of people in something like that.
Okay.
So a proper Wimbledon person will be able to tell you, but it's fascinating when you actually start to see the work behind it in terms of social media rather than the end product.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. If we look at people, I think social media has given this perception that success happens overnight. And not to say that it doesn't, because for some people it may.
Luck happens.
But how sustainable is that success that happens overnight versus people that have put hours and hours and, all this sort of work in. And I don't think social media often shows you that struggle that you're talking about.
No.
And what people have had to go through, because who wants to air their dirty laundry on social media? And then tears, and look, some people do, don't get me wrong, but I think it's out of proportion for
yes.
for what the truth actually is.
So that's actually what I was actually going to say as well, because there has definitely been an increase of people who are shooting raw, real content, right? Like there's this guy that I follow, I can't remember his name right now, but he literally shoots his content from start of day to the end. So he lives in a shack, and he tracks it. He hasn't, and this guy, if I've now calculated it, if I'm looking at the views of videos and I calculate the way I understand Facebook, he's making a decent amount of money just off Facebook.
Okay.
But he's not changing that, right? And then I went back to when he first started doing this, and the purpose for him was to show other people and kids who lives in shacks and all of that this doesn't determine where you can go to.
Yeah.
You can start here. This is and his whole thing was it's a great starting point, because think about it. You're starting with nothing. You add 0. So the only way you can go is up.
But and this is where people are looking at, they're at 0 and they're going, I want to become a billionaire.
Yeah.
And they don't even know what it means to be 1,000-aire.
Yeah.
They have no concept of hundreds, thousands, millions and billions. And so they're going, I want to be a millionaire, instead of, well, if you go from 0 to 100, that's way better than going from 0 to 1 billion and not knowing where you are in your journey.
Yeah, and Vera and I were speaking about it on our last week's episode. We were talking about the actual, and that I actually said I'll speak to you more about it. But can you imagine the actual shock of going from 0 to Powerball?
Well, that's the lotto winners, and
Yeah.
how they lose everything within 3 to 5 years or something like that.
And I was like, when I thought about it after me and him spoke, and I was like, yeah, I think it, for me, and I'm speaking for myself, it would be nice to win it. It would be great. But when I really started to think about the effects that that could have on me, just on my current financial journey, I'm probably definitely not ready for that. It's not an amount that I believe right now where I'm at that I can keep.
So it's interesting you say that, because I was listening to a podcast. I don't know if it was a podcast or I read in a book, but a guy was talking about his journey and how he used to tithe 100 rand. So he tithed 10%. So he was earning call it $1,000, and he'd got tithe 10%, which was $100.
Yeah.
And then as his journey went along and he became a lot more wealthy and he started generating money from his books and everything, he said, you think it's hard tithing 10% of $1,000? He said, go try and tithe 10%
Of $1 million.
of $1 million.
Was it that black guy with the beard?
I can't remember.
Because I think it's the same guy. I've also heard that thing. And I was like, whoa. I've never thought about it like that.
Like, so now you're not tithing $100. Now you're tithing $100,000. Like,
It's a shock.
It's a huge shock.
It's a massive shock.
Because, and this is where people have this misperception about money, is that if you are not in a position where you can be responsible with 100,000, you're going to lose it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it is. And then you feel like a failure and blah, blah, blah. And so everything goes. And you talk lotto winners that they're in this situation where they win and then they lose everything. Well, how much more of a failure are they going to feel after they've lost everything?
Worse.
And I don't think the world has taught people to fail forward. They've taught them, if you fail, that's it. You're stuck.
I feel like it definitely is that thing of, if you fail, don't do it again. Don't try it. You tried it. Guess what? You failed.
So don't do it again.
Don't do it again. Instead of, okay, you failed. What did you learn by doing what you did?
And how could you get better so you don't make that same mistake?
Yeah. And I like, you bring up the Donald Trumps and the Kiyosakis, and actually, we don't even need to bring those, because those are the anomalies that are over there. Even in our rooms, I've heard guys and girls, so I've seen guys just in general, but like, I've heard people say that they've had 4 or 5 businesses before they got to where they are today. They've lost 4 or 5 businesses. Barry's a prime example. Screwed over here, screwed over there, this happened. But
even you took Barry's example, he tried a little business here with somebody, and it wasn't this major thing, but it was, they were going to sell, I don't know, like things for swimming pools.
Yeah.
Like, or to measure the water levels. And it wasn't like big, huge...
You're not going to change the world type
thing, but they didn't even get past the, like... they got a product, they bought some products, and then it didn't work. That's it. Failed. Barry's chicken business. It's stop, start.
Yeah.
As we get a rep, and then we're selling chickens, and then the rep leaves, and then there's nobody selling chickens, and it's one of those that if you don't put the investment and the time, and it's going to fail. It will fail.
Yeah.
Because any business has these cycles, but are you willing to work through the cycle?
And I feel like that's exactly the same for like an individual, not even just a business, right? Even you as a person, you have those cycles. Sometimes you're going to knock it out the park. Sometimes you're going to, it happens. But I feel like most people get, after that first dip, it's like, I don't want to put myself in these positions anymore, right? I don't want to put myself in a position where I'm having to grow, because for me, growth is freaking painful.
But there's that saying, the darkest hour is before the morning dawn. And most people don't realize that darkest hour is right before their success.
Yes.
The hole that black hole that people feel like they're in often is like right before their success.
39% of people sabotage just before they succeed.
And it's, you look at any success story of, I there's a whole lot of success stories you can think of, but just people who've overcome depression, or people who've overcome I'm trying to think of is it Rebecca Sinclair? There's the Christian artist. Flip, I can't remember her name now, but their story of how they were Australians and they went. It's a movie that was released, I think, last year.
Okay.
And I think it's Rebecca St. James, but that's not her real name, but that's her stage name.
Okay.
And it's just their story and how they left Australia and they went to the US, and then they literally had no furniture, they had nothing. And it was just things like they used to put their wants, they used to write the things that they wanted on a piece of paper.
Yeah.
And then they put it on, like they had a prayer wall that they would pray for, these are the things that they want. And I think one of the little boys asked for something like free groceries.
Okay.
And that was his want. And the father says to him, don't be ridiculous, you'll never get that. And of course, what happened is they found a whole lot of coupons.
Oh, okay.
And so, or I think he asked for cheaper groceries or something like that. And they found a whole lot of coupons in the newspaper, and they went and they literally got...
They got the cheaper groceries.
They got their cheaper groceries. And it's just their story of how they went, and it was literally, they were in their darkest hour when they had absolutely nothing and they were about to give up. And then their success and how she broke into the music scene.
Yeah.
But it's fascinating to how many people, their darkest hour is right before their success. But that's what makes them successful, is they can push through that.
Yeah. And I that's funny because I think about it myself. And I think also because I've been processing it a bit and all of that. But I think my darkest hour was just before Barry called me to have the meeting for me to join the team. That was my darkest hour. I thought I was dying. Not dying in the sense of I'm dying. But I didn't have a plan. It was dire straits. Right? Dire straits. But with that call also came the fact that I had to take the opportunity. I had to put myself in that position.
To take some action.
Yeah. And I think that's also the other side of failure, right? Is that failure and fear is that you've got to take action, irrespective.
Have to be moving.
Because if you're not, you're just gonna stay stuck. If you failed at something and you didn't learn, you stay stuck in that.
So and this is where there's all these sayings like you can't steer a parked car.
Yeah. Yes.
You can't, even if the car is going in the wrong direction,
it's still going.
It's going, and you can turn it around. But if it's stationary, you can't do anything with it.
Yeah.
And this is where, in terms of trapped life force particles, is understanding that action is the number one thing that's going to keep you or shift you out of the red zone into the green zone. And it does, even if you're taking the wrong action, you will find the right action by taking the wrong action.
Yeah.
You will not find any action if you're stationary.
If you're not moving, yeah. And I think it's also important to note that, for me, I don't feel as though we're saying, do something, fail, and then, what did I learn? No, because you're a human being.
Correct. And I think it is important you take what we're saying in context.
Yeah.
Because it's not about just go out and fail. Please, we're not suggesting that. Go and, fail it. It's understanding that when you do fail, what did you learn from it? And are you willing to right yourself from the failures?
Yes.
Not just go out and just fail and fail again and fail again. And
keep failing without learning anything.
It's not about that. It's about, are you willing to do the things you know you need to do? Not the things that you want to do, the things you know you need to, so that you can sort of avoid that fear of failure, because action cures fear. And it is. So it's just understanding the more action you take, the more you can learn, the more you can grow, the more you can do the right things.
Yeah, and I feel like for me to end off, and I think the best way to end this is, like when a child is about to jump into a pool for the first time, the only way they get over it is by jumping into the pool.
Yep.
And then afterwards, that fear is gone, and you can see how much they love jumping into the pool.
It's just a video of a dog jumping into a dam, and the little boy coaxes the dog, and you can see the dog wants to jump, and the little boy comes and he goes from far, and he comes closer and closer, and of course the next thing, the dog is going wild, swimming all over the dam. Loves it. But it was just that first initial
took action.
And not to say that everybody's going to, or all dogs or all kids are going to love it, but you're only going to find out if you love it by doing it.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. We hope that you guys enjoyed this episode. We hope that you got value. Please keep the comments coming through, and don't forget to subscribe. If you see it, just click the bell thingy. Subscribe. Ding. You're in. No more problems.
And also comment.
Yes.
We love to get feedback and comments and questions. So, yeah, please feel free to comment.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much. Thank you for joining. Thank you for listening. Thank you, Nicole. Much appreciated. And we'll see you guys again next week on the Uncovering Greatness podcast.
Bye.